Okay, pre-cal students, in this video we will be looking at complementary and supplementary angles. So your heading, if you would please write this down, is complementary and supplementary angles. Please write that in your notes if you would. Also include today's date if you would do that. That helps you have good organized notes. So please write down the date and please write down complementary and supplementary angles. This will be a short video due to the fact that the topic of complementary and supplementary angles should really be review. You should have heard of this in Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry, and for that matter, even in middle school math. So this should not be a new topic. The only thing that will be new will be finding complementary and supplementary angles using radian measurement. But that is really not a difficult task. So I really don't see that making the math a whole lot more difficult. So with that in mind, let's jump right into this. Here are a couple definitions I would like you to write down. I would like you to write down the definition of complementary angles. Now, when I tell you that you have complementary angles, that means you have two angles whose sum is 90 degrees. An example of this would be 35 degrees and 55 degrees. We say that these two angles are supplementary because if you add them together, they equal 90. Now, the definition of supplementary angles is two angles whose sum is 180. So an example of this would be an angle that is 95 degrees and an angle that is 85 degrees. We would say these two angles here are supplementary. Okay, so these two angles here I'm circling right now are complementary. Their sum is 90, and these two angles here are supplementary because their sum is 180. Of course, sum means you're adding. So if you add these two angles together, you will get 90. If you add these two angles together, you will get 180. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and find the complement and the supplement for the given three angles below. Now you can stay with me and do these with me, or you can work ahead. That's totally up to you. Okay, let's first of all find the complement for 25 degrees. Well, obviously you want to come up with an angle that when you add 25 degrees to it, you get 90. So I'm going to simply take 90 minus 25, and that should give me 65 degrees. And so there we go. The complement of 25 degrees is 65 degrees. And I know that because if I add 25 plus 65, I will get 90. Now let's find the supplement. The supplement of 25 degrees. Well, if you think about it, I want an angle that when I add 25 to it, I will get 180. So I'm simply going to take 180 degrees and subtract 25 degrees. And when I do that, I'm going to come up with 155 degrees. Now, I know that 155 degrees is the supplement of 25 degrees because if you add 25 and 155, you will get 180 degrees. Okay, this is really pretty simple math. Let's go ahead and find the complement and the supplement of 73 degrees. Okay, so let's take 90 minus 73, and then if I do that correctly, I will get 17 degrees. So there, I just found the complement of 73 degrees. So you could say the complement of 73 is 17, or you could say the complement of 17 is 73, because if you add this angle and this angle together, you will get 90. Now let's find the supplement of 73 degrees. So we're going to take 180, and we're going to subtract 73 degrees. And if we do that correctly, we will get 107 degrees. If I take 73 plus 107, I will get 180. So you can say that 73 is the supplement of 107, or you could say 107 is the supplement of 73 degrees. Either way is acceptable. But as you can see, this math is pretty simple. We're just finding two angles that add up to 90 or two angles that add up to 180. Now, let's take a look at one more problem and then we'll be finished. Now, if you'll notice, there's not going to be a complement for 111 degrees. So the complement of 111 degrees does not exist. I mean, think about it. Unless you wanted to use negative angles, and we are not going to use negative angles when it comes to complementary or supplementary angles. Now there is such thing as negative angles, okay, and we'll get into that later. But when it comes to finding complementary and supplementary angles, we are not going to use negative numbers. So there is no way we can add anything to 111 degrees and come up with 90 unless it was a negative 21. And we're not going to use negative angles. So the complement does not exist. Now the supplement, however, the supplement would be 180 minus 111. All right? And that should give you 69 degrees. If you take 111 and add to it 69 degrees, you will get 180. So the supplement of 111 is 69, or the supplement of 69 is 111 degrees. So that's really simple math, guys, finding the complementary or finding the complement and supplement of given angles. Now let's go ahead and finish this video up by looking at some radian measurements. Let's find the complement and supplement of the three angles below. Notice, however, now notice students, there is no degree symbol here or here or here. So whenever there's no degree symbol, you assume that you have radian measurements, okay? So we are dealing with radian measurement, radian measurement, radian measurement, radian measurement. Now here's what I want you to remember, okay? Let's remember that pi over 2 equals 90 degrees. So since we're dealing with radians, we're going to use pi over 2 for 90. And also don't forget, now we learned this when we talked about radians, remember? Here's a circle. If you were to rotate all the way around 180 degrees, that's pi. If you were to rotate from here to here 90 degrees, that would be pi over 2. If you went a complete circle 360 degrees, that would be 2 pi. Okay, so we did talk about all this when we talked about radian measurement earlier this year. Okay, so remember that pi equals 180 degrees. Now, some students like to convert the radians over to degrees, find the complement and the supplement, and then convert them back to radians. That's really a long way to do it, and I guess I can't stop you from doing that, but there's really no need to do that, okay? There's really not. Let me show you very quickly how to do this, and I think you'll totally understand it, okay? Okay, I want us to find the complement of pi over 5. Okay, the complement of pi over 5. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 90, which is pi over 2, right? Remember, look down here. 90 degrees is the same thing as pi over 2. So I'm going to take pi over 2, and I'm going to subtract pi over 5. Now, if I were you, I would use your fraction button on your calculator. By now, you're taking pre-calculus class. You should know where your ABC button is or your fraction button is on your calculator. And so if you want to use the fraction button, there's an imaginary 1 right here, an imaginary 1 here. I would just type into your calculator 1/2 minus 1/5. And if you do that correctly, I'm doing it in my head, I believe you would get 5 minus 2. I think you'll get 3/5. Okay, I'll check that in a second. So then, of course, don't forget to put your pi up top here. Okay, so if you took pi over 2 minus pi over 5, you would get 3 pi over 5. Okay, so once again, there's an imaginary 1 here and an imaginary 1 here. If I were you, I would just use your calculator and I would type in 1/2 minus 1/5, and that would give you 3/5, and then go ahead and put your pi back into the problem. However, if you do not want to use a calculator, if you want to do it the long way, that's totally fine. What you'd have to do is find a common denominator for 2 and 5. A common denominator for 2 and 5, as you know, would be 10. Okay, so 2 goes into 10 5 times. 5 times pi would be 5 pi. And then 5 goes into 10 2 times, and 2 times pi would be 2 pi. And then go ahead and subtract. And I guess I got it wrong, didn't I? I apologize, guys. It's my fault. We all make mistakes. And so there we go. And we'll make this a 10. And 5 minus 2 would be 3 pi over 10. So there, you just found the complement. You took 90, or pi over 2, minus the angle. So if you were to take 3 pi over 10 plus pi over 5, you would get pi over 2, which is 90. Okay, so there, you found the complement. Now let's find the supplement. Okay, the supplement. Well, remember, 180 is the same thing as pi, so I'm going to take pi minus pi over 5. Now, think about that for a second. There's an imaginary 1 right here, so if you want to use your calculator, you really have 1 minus 1/5, because there's an imaginary 1 right here also. So, if you want to use your calculator, it would be 1 minus 1/5, and of course, if you take 1 minus 1/5, you will get 4/5, and then go ahead and put your pi right back up here, and there, you found the supplement. If you were to take pi over 5 plus 4 pi over 5, you would get pi, which is 180 degrees. Now, if you don't want to use your calculator and you want to do it the long way, that's totally fine. Put the pi over 1 and find a common denominator for 1 and 5. Well, a common denominator for 1 and 5 would be 5. So, 1 goes into 5 times. 5 times pi would be 5 pi. 5 goes into 5 once. 1 times pi would be pi. So you're left with 5 pi minus 1 pi. And 5 minus 1 is 4. So you get 4 pi over 5, which is the exact same answer we had before. So not too difficult, okay? All right, you can work ahead or stay with me if you want to on these next two problems. This one will be a little tricky over here. So if you do work ahead, make sure you watch and make sure that you did it correctly. Let me get a drink here real quick. But let's go ahead and try to find the complement and the supplement of this angle here. Well, first of all, I'm going to tell you now, there is no complement. It doesn't exist. Watch what happens, okay? If you take pi over 2, which is 90 degrees, minus 4 pi over 5. Now, first of all, if you want to use a calculator, type in 1/2 minus 4/5. And what you're going to get out is a negative fraction. And of course, we've already talked about how you cannot have negative angles when it comes to complementary and supplementary angles. What you're going to get is negative 3/10, and of course you'd put the pi right here. So as soon as you get out a negative angle, you know it can't be done. But if you don't like to use your calculator, if you want to do it the long way, that's totally fine. A common denominator for 2 and 5 would be 10. We'll put a 10 there, we'll put a 10 there. 2 goes into 10 5 times pi is 5 pi. 2 goes into 10, or 5 goes into 10 2 times 4 pi would be 8 pi. 5 minus 8 would be 3 pi over 10 negative. Okay, so the complement does not exist. Let's see if we can find the supplement for this angle. The supplement, well, we're going to take 180, which is the same thing as pi, and we're going to take pi minus 4 pi over 5. Okay, now I would encourage you to use your calculator. There's a 1 right here in front of the pi. You really have 1 minus 4/5. And of course, 1 minus 4/5 is 1/5. And then don't forget to put your pi up here. And there we go. We have it. The supplement of 4 pi over 5, the supplement for this angle here would be pi over 5. If you were to add these two angles together, you would get pi, which is 180 degrees. Okay? Now, if you don't like to do it the calculator way, that's no problem. Very quickly, we'll put this over 1 and we'll find a common denominator. A common denominator for 1 and 5 is 5. 1 goes into 5 times. 5 times pi is 5 pi. Over here, 5 goes into 5 once. 1 times 4 pi is 4 pi. And then 5 minus 4 would be 1 pi, or just pi over 5. So there we go. Same answer. You would say pi over 5 is the supplement for 4 pi over 5. Or you could say 4 pi over 5 is the supplement for pi over 5. Okay? Either way is acceptable. And so we're learning how to find the complement and the supplement of angles measured in radians. Okay? And now this one right here, notice we're using decimal, so it's no big deal. Let's go ahead and find the complement of this angle. So we're still going to use pi over 2 minus 1.32. So it's no big deal. We just take our calculators and we take pi over 2 and we change it over to a decimal. So 3.14 divided by 2 would be 1.57. So I really have 1.57 minus 1.32. And of course, if you type that in correctly, you will get 0.25. Now this is an approximation because really we rounded for pi. We use 3.14, but either way, 1.32 and 0.25 are complementary angles, okay? They are complementary angles. Okay, let's go ahead now and let's find the supplement of this angle. Well, of course, this is in radians. There's no degree symbol here. If there was a degree symbol there, we would use 90 degrees, and we would use 180 degrees, okay? But there's no degree symbol, so we're dealing with radians, so I'm going to use radians. And of course, pi is the same thing as 180 degrees. So I'm going to take pi minus 1.32. Now pi, of course, is the same thing as 3.14. So I'm going to take 3.14 minus 1.32. And if you type that into your calculator correctly, you will get 1.82. All right? So, 1.32 radians and 1.82 radians are supplementary, okay? 1.82 is the supplement of 1.32, or you could say 1.32 is the supplement for 1.82. Okay, so what we've learned today is how to find, or pretty much reviewed, how to find the complement and the supplement of an angle that's in degrees, or the complement and the supplement of an angle that's in radians, okay? If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call or email.